My dear Formula 1 lovers, my name is Orlando and welcome to your channel, F1 Zone. The Australian Grand Prix is just around the corner and I'm gonna tell you all about it. He's not gonna let Checo or anybody in Red Bull or any other team to take that away. In Mercedes, they no longer care about Lewis Hamilton. However, Fernando Alonso has a huge handicap. Max Verstappen is just about to break an all-time record, and he's not gonna let anything or anyone take it away from him. However, his teammate Checo Perez wants to get his first victory of the season. Can Checo Perez be the party pooper for Max Verstappen? We will see. And let's go to the highlights. Red Bull is crushing all his competitors. So far, in 2 races, they have done the 1-2, 1-2 with Max and Checo. However, Checo Perez wants to be the number 1. Is he gonna be able to make that happen? Lewis Hamilton has been left behind by Mercedes. What's gonna happen to the 7-time world champion? Piastri, is he gonna be ahead of Lando Norris? There is one reason why Fernando Alonso might be back into the podium. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. Is Carlos Sainz ready to go back on track? What are my race predictions? I'll tell you in a bit. Let's go! Saudi Arabia Grand Prix just showed us the reality of all the teams. The Jeddah circuit with a softer track made the teams who had tire wear issues look better. However, Red Bull crashed them all in a heartbeat. And let me tell you something really important that you need to know. I know that most of you are gonna be saying, oh no, once again, Max Verstappen winning, Red Bull just getting all. This is so boring. Why am I gonna be watching a race which I know what the result is gonna be like? But let me tell you something. Right now, right at this moment, we are seeing how history is being made. We are seeing the best of engineering. The RB20 is simply a masterpiece of engineering. So I can guarantee you that in a few years you're gonna be saying something like, hey, I live in the era of Red Bull. I watched Max Verstappen winning strikes. I watched Checo Perez. I saw the engineering from Adrian Newey, similar to what we saw with Michael Schumacher. Anyway, let's talk about the circuit. Formula 1 arrived to Australia for the first time in 1985, and the race was held at the Adelaide circuit up until 1995. After that, they moved to Albert Park, and since then, we have seen great battles in this circuit. Of course, we had COVID during 2020, 2021, but then for 2022, the circuit was back. Remember, in 2022, Charles Leclerc took the victory and showed no mercy. And then the 2023 race happened, where we had so many safety cars on track. Remember, this circuit is a street circuit, and the name of the circuit is Albert Park, which is located in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. The length of the circuit is 5.2 kilometers. Drivers have to complete 58 laps, for a total of 306 kilometers. This circuit has 4 DRS zones, where we have 14 corners, 9 to the right, 5 to the left. The lap record is held by Checo Perez. In 2023, he had a time of 1:20.235. The all-time winner for this circuit is Michael Schumacher, with 4 victories: 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2004. The maximum speed on this circuit is 320 kilometers an hour, with an average speed of 245 kilometers an hour. The traction we'll have is medium. Remember, this is a very clean track, and the downforce is gonna be medium. This is due to the high speed and braking zones, where we expect a medium-low abrasion. Honestly, this is a super soft asphalt. Braking is gonna be medium-low. This is due to the low-speed corners. The grip is gonna be medium. In general, we're gonna have a good grip. The lateral forces are also medium, and the tire stress is gonna be medium as well. Now, pay attention to this. The evolution of the track is gonna be medium-high. This is because it's a street circuit, and as the weekend progresses, it's gonna get cleaner. And Pirelli is bringing the C3, C4, and C5 compounds, which is the softer range. Usually the strategy is to go one stop, which is what we saw in 2022. However, in 2023, remember, we had a lot of safety cars, so we had a lot of tire change, but that's not a good reference. When the drivers get into the pit stops, they lose about 16 seconds on track. The probability for the safety car is about 60%. Remember, this is still a street circuit. And on top of that, this is one of the fastest circuits of the calendar. It's within the top 6. In 2023, due to all the safety cars, we had a very low count of overpasses. We only had about 26. And remember, Checo Perez took 15 out of those 26. Yeah, he started from the last position and he ended up in P5. Let's talk about the weather conditions. For Friday, free practice 1, free practice 2, we're gonna have temperatures between 21 and 13 Cs with a pretty low chances of rain, 7%. However, we're gonna have pretty strong winds. we're gonna have anywhere from 15 to 25 kilometers an hour. Then for Saturday, we're gonna have similar conditions. Remember, Saturday is when we have the quali. Temperatures around 20 to 11 Cs with a higher chances of rain, 20%. This could change everything for the quali. Anyways, the wind intensity is gonna be the exact same as Friday. For Sunday, the day of the race, we expect temperatures between 21 and 11 Cs with a pretty low chances of rain, 6%. And then the winds are gonna be lessened between 10 to 15 kilometers an hour, which is good, but still they need to be considered. Now let's go with the description of the corners. As any other track in Formula 1, this is divided into 3 sectors. Sector number 1, it starts with the main straight of the track. Then drivers are gonna be facing corner number 1, which is a pretty strong break but very quick. Right after that, we have corner number 2, which is a very difficult corner, especially under rainy conditions. Right after corner number 2, we start the first DRS zone, and then we start entering corner number 3. Once again, this is a strong braking zone. Drivers should be very careful to not block the tires, otherwise they could end them out of track. In corner number 4, drivers should take care of the understeering condition because it's not that easy to enter into this corner. Then we get into corner number 5, which is not a big deal. And just like that, we are on sector number 2. Sector number 2 starts with corner number 6. This is a tricky corner because the circuit is kind of like slightly turning to the left, but then the corner is to the right. Drivers must be careful of the grass because the wall is right next to it. And after that, we start with the fastest zone of the circuit, curves number 7, 8, 9, and 10. Actually, between curve number 8 and 9, that's where we have the second DRS zone. And just like that, we're on sector number 3. Corner number 9 is the start of sector number 3. And remember, right after corner number 10, that's when we start the third DRS zone. Corner 11 is a medium braking zone. Corner number 12 is a very easy one. Drivers only need to lift the foot out of the throttle. But then we have the most difficult corner of the circuit, corner number 13. Drivers should be very precise with the braking on this curve. They need to position the car in the right position at the right time. This is a super slow 90-degree corner. And remember, in low-speed corners, downforce means nothing because there's none. It's very simple to end up blocking those tires and then stepping on the grass, which could be catastrophic. And last but not least, corner 14. Drivers have to go as wide as possible because this is a really important curve, because right after that we have the main straight of the circuit where we have the fourth and last DRS zone. Anyways, what is the conclusion of this track? There is no doubt that this circuit is a very complete circuit. You have all sorts of corners, slow corners, fast corners, medium speed corners, straights for sure. And I'm gonna tell you, if I start seeing rain, I'm gonna be very happy. Remember, the rain could change everything on a weekend. Anyways, it's not likely that we're gonna have rain, but I hope so. This track definitely is gonna help those teams that are struggling with tire degradation. Teams like McLaren, Aston Martin. So we should see a better performance from them. Now it's time to talk about the top teams, and then I'll tell you my predictions. Yeah, let's talk about Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. Let's start with Red Bull. Checo Perez is challenging Max Verstappen. He wants to break his winning strike. As we know, there's a huge war happening right now in Red Bull. We have Helmut Marko, Christian Horner, Adrian Newey in between, Oliver Minzlaff, Josh Verstappen, Max Verstappen, you name it. Red Bull as a corporation is a big mess right now. However, despite all that, on track, they are flying. Red Bull is crushing everyone on the track. Now Melbourne with a softer track, Red Bull should be able to fly. So everything seems perfect for Red Bull on track. However, we might see a really good battle between Max Verstappen and Checo Perez. And I'll tell you why. Checo Perez no longer wants to be driver number 2 of Red Bull. Why do I say that? Remember the big accident that he had on his home Grand Prix in Mexico in 2023? Yeah, Checo Perez made a risky decision. He exchanged his P2 for a DNF. And why he did that? And he said it very clear. He didn't just want another podium at home. He wanted to go for the victory. Checo Perez is not satisfied anymore with being P2 or just being in the podium. He already accomplished that last year. And Checo knows that Australia could be a turning point, because if he let Max Verstappen to win another race over him, it's gonna be very difficult to catch him up. That's the reason why Checo Perez needs a victory right away. Of course, he has the desire to be champion of the world, and this might be his last chance. But we have Max Verstappen on the other side of the garage. We know Max Verstappen, he wants to take it all. He wants to win it all. And right now, he's chasing his all-time world record, the winning streak of 10 victories. Yeah, he imposed that record last year, just right before Carlos Sainz broke that strike. Remember Singapore 2023? Anyways, Max Verstappen simply is not gonna let anybody to take that record away from him. He's not gonna let Checo or anybody in Red Bull or any other team to take that away. If he wins in Australia, he's gonna tie his own record. And after that, who knows what's gonna happen? The question is, do you believe that Checo Perez is gonna break his winning strike record, or Max Verstappen is gonna take it all? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about the Tifosi. Carlos Sainz, such a great professional. The champion gesture of Carlos Sainz. It's no secret that Ferrari started the season very solid up there, but better yet, they have been constant. That's something they were lacking all 2023 season. So far in the first two races, Ferrari has been the team who has been closest to Red Bull. Remember in the last race, Charles Leclerc was able to get the third position at the podium, and in the first race, Carlos Sainz was able to get the third position at the podium. Right now, Ferrari looks so superior compared to the teams that are behind them, and most likely we're gonna see Ferrari once again in the podium. In Jeddah, Leclerc had a good race pace. Remember, in the very last lap, he got the fastest lap. For Sainz, it was a shame that he had to go to surgery. So far, nobody has said anything if he's gonna be back for Australia. But the real highlight of last weekend was Carlos Sainz's professionalism. Just right after he got his surgery, he went onto the race. Carlos Sainz put his headset on and he started providing direction to Oliver Burman. He was providing advice, he was telling him what to expect from the vehicle. He was being a true team player, even though he's been kicked out of Ferrari. That was simply a champion's gesture. And I hope we can see Carlos Sainz back this weekend. Let's talk about McLaren. Norris versus Piastri. Who has the better race pace? For McLaren, last weekend was a great race for them. They went back on the third place for the Constructors' Championship. Lando Norris was able to keep himself ahead of Lewis Hamilton. On the other side, Oscar Piastri was able to get to P4. I could see McLaren having a good battle with Mercedes. This circuit is going to be interesting for the Orange team. Remember, their weak spot is the low speed corners, and Australia has a good mixture of low speed corners and medium speed and high speeds. Oscar Piastri, for sure, he should have extra motivation to go to his home race, and moreover because he has a way better car than what he had in 2023. If Piastri is focused and he has a good quali, we could see it again finishing in the top 5. On Lando Norris' side, he needs to recover from what happened in Saudi Arabia. However, we can always count on Lando Norris' race pace. He usually has a better race pace than Piastri, so the fight between these two drivers is gonna be crazy at the Australian Grand Prix. Let's talk about Mercedes. Hamilton left behind after he signed up for Ferrari. For Mercedes, this circuit should be a lot better than what we saw for Jeddah. This circuit has some low-speed corners, and the Achilles spots for Mercedes are the high-speed corners. They are so far behind from the rest of the teams. So remember when we saw the battle between Norris and Hamilton in Jeddah? We could clearly see how the MCL38 was so far ahead from the W15 on the high-speed corner zone. For that reason, Mercedes lost the third position at the Constructors' Championship. But for Australia, I could see Mercedes doing better, especially given their history. In 2023, they ended up really strong. Hamilton, to tell you the truth, had a really rough start of the season. I mean, compared to Russell, of course. We can clearly see that in Mercedes, they no longer care about Lewis Hamilton. They are simply ignoring everything he says. And I don't blame them. Mercedes is focused totally on George Russell. On the other hand, Russell seems to be very comfortable in the W15. What's gonna happen with the 7-time world champion? Is he gonna be able to reverse the situation at Mercedes so he can leave the team with the chest high up? Let's talk about now Aston Martin. Melbourne, the ace under the sleeve. I can see Aston Martin having a good weekend at Melbourne, especially Fernando Alonso. we could see something similar to what we saw at Jeddah or something better. This is due to the tire wear, which is super low at the Melbourne circuit. Remember, Aston Martin had a huge jump up in performance when they went from Bahrain to Jeddah, and one of the main differences between these two circuits is the tire wear. However, Fernando Alonso has a huge handicap. Yeah, I'm talking about his teammate, the Canadian Lance Stroll. As you might remember, in Saudi Arabia, Lance Stroll, on the free practice, he ended up on the wall. And later on at the race, he did the exact same thing. Anyways, if Fernando Alonso has a good Saturday, a good quali, I'm curious to see what's gonna be his race pace, especially on this super soft track. I don't know, he might surprise us and be back into the podium. Not likely, but I hope so. Now let's go with my predictions. Yeah, I told you everything about the teams, the drivers, the track, etc, etc. Now let's go to the point. For the quali, I could see Max Verstappen taking the pole position with no problem whatsoever. And of course, Charles Leclerc might be the only one fighting with Max Verstappen, but not too close. And for the race, I could see in the midfield one of the Haas drivers. And then my top 5 is as follows. I can see Oscar Piastri taking P5. Then if Carlos Sainz is back, I could see him in P4. And then on the podium, we might see Charles Leclerc on P3, and on the RB20, Checo Perez in P2, and Max Verstappen once again getting P1. So these were my predictions. I'm really interested to hear yours. Remember, I always read every single one of the comments. Of course, I don't have time to reply to every one of you, but believe me when I say I read each and every one of the comments. This is it for today, guys. And remember, this is F1 Zone. I'll see you next time.